Hello and welcome to this e-lesson on theories and foundation of online learning. In this lesson, we'll cover a brief history of distance education, define distance education and online learning, and discuss the main schools of learning. Although the term online learning might seem a new concept, its origination comes from distance education, which has been around for more than 160 years. All started with correspondence courses wherein students would receive instruction and correspond with a school via post. It was originally designed for adults with occupational and family commitments, and in the early 90s, programs were discontinued due to the quality and faculty interest. With the growth and advances in electronic communications, the concept of distance education expanded to include other means of interaction. It shifted from one to a two-way interaction, especially with the use of computer-mediated tools. So, is distance education and online learning the same? If not, what is the difference? Well, distance education is a method of education distinguished by the separation between the teacher and the learner, while online learning is the use of internet and computer technologies to support learning. Online learning can be completely online or blended. Both are alternative means to traditional education. You can think of distance education as a broader concept in which online learning can be one of its many formats. In addition to those, there are some emerging definitions in the field, such as open learning and virtual schools. Open learning has the goal to provide access to education to everyone, and a common example in online education is the massive online open courses or MOOCs. Meanwhile, virtual schools have been used to indicate online environments in K-12 settings. When we talk about schools of learning, there are many assumptions about learning. Let's just take a moment to read this definition and these issues that Mazur talk about. Discussions of education are generally predicted on the assumption that we know what education is. When I started teaching introductory physics to undergrads at Harvard University, I never asked myself how I would educate my students. I did what my teachers had done. I lectured. I thought that was how one learns. Early in my career, I received the first hints that something was wrong with the teaching in this manner, but I had ignored it. Sometimes it is hard to face reality. I want you to really think and consider what he's talking about here. And as we go to each one of these schools of learnings, to think about in which ways or strategies can you start seeing or implementing in designing, developing your own online courses or even your own teaching or helping and facilitating instructors that will be teaching and conducting courses online. There are three main schools of learning, which were covered in the readings, and these are behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. And we'll briefly discuss each one of them here. In a behaviorist approach, learning is based of observable events, resulting in a change in behavior caused by external stimuli. The change in behavior indicates whether or not the learner has learned, but not what goes into the learner's mind. The mind is viewed as a black box. You might be wondering, how does the behaviorism impact instructional design? First, behaviorist strategies can be implemented in educational settings to change a behavior. For example, positive reinforcements such as points or rewards can be implemented when the desired behavior is achieved. Other implications of behaviorism into instructional design includes one, its use as a part of formative evaluation to observe change in performance. Um, Two, its contributions to the concepts of behavior objectives. And third, early conception of instructional feedback. Differently from behaviorism, cognitivism proposes that learning is an internal process within the learner, and the mind is viewed as a computer that processes information received. There are three memory systems in the learner: sensory, short term, and long term, and they are used to receive information from the environment and transform it to storage. Then learners retrieve this information and use in performance. You might be wondering, how does cognitivism impact instructional design? Well, it brings to light the need to, one, direct learners' attention, such as highlighting or emphasizing key concepts, so the important information is stored. Second, facilitate the encoding and retrieval process through visuals, graphics, or diagrams to help learners make meaningful connections, in particularly with their prior knowledge or experiences. And third, practice with the different kinds of examples or problems to help learners apply that information in various contexts. In a constructivist approach, learning involves making sense of the world through experience, and the mind plays an important role on how people act when learning. And how does constructivism impact instructional design? Well, it focuses on more high level order thinking and complex learning goals, as well as the design and development of complex learning environments that provide for authentic activities, collaboration, self regulation, and reflection in the learning process. So now it is time for you to apply the knowledge that you gained from the readings and this e-lesson. Please review the instructions in the assignment's description in our course. In summary, your goal is to identify one of the schools of learning and learn it more in depth. You can select it based on your readiness or interest. However, you should not have the same learning theory as other members in your professional learning communities. There are a set of questions that can guide your research. So, for example, what are the main premises of the learning theory? What are the pros and cons of that learning theory? And what are the implications for online education? So, consider the role of the instructor, the teacher, the student, and the technology. As a group, you will produce an infographic that communicates and contrasts the main learning theories covered in the readings. You will also summarize and concise your individual contributions into one artifact. So take this moment to learn from each other and produce an infographic that summarize and provide these key concepts that your group have discussed.